Now, it's the mounting evidence that's forced an emergency meeting on the Zika virus. The world's leading health experts are this week poring over fresh studies linking Zika to debilitating neurological disorders. Now, they bolster the belief that the mosquito-borne infection causes microcephaly, a condition that causes babies to be born with abnormally small heads. Another research claims to show a direct link between Zika and Guillain-Barré Syndrome, a crippling condition that can cause paralysis. And what makes Zika even more threatening is the fact that there is no vaccine. Dr. Peter Piot is all too familiar with these types of outbreaks. The microbiologist co-discovered Ebola in the 1970s and has led extensive research on HIV/AIDS. And I spoke with him earlier about the danger Zika poses.
Well, the reason that Zika is so important and has been declared by WHO as an epidemic of international concern is not so much for the infection itself, because that's a fairly mild type of dengue, but it's because what it causes in terms of birth defects. And we see here an example of a small skull, microcephaly, and every day the evidence becomes stronger that Zika virus during pregnancy actually causes not only this small skull, but probably also other complications for babies.
So the evidence of a link is getting stronger?
Every day it's getting stronger. The virus has been isolated from amniotic fluid, from the brain of fetuses and children born with this. And, in studies also from French Caledonia, they showed that about 1/3 of women with Zika infection during pregnancy, also found in Brazil, that they develop, their children develop these abnormalities.
And what is the link between the Zika virus and Guillain-Barré, this neurological illness that causes temporary paralysis? What is the link between the two?
Yeah, Guillain-Barré is a syndrome, a disease where you are temporarily paralyzed sometimes. It's really bad, but most people recover. That is known for a long time and can happen after other viral illnesses. But now investigators have found that about 1 in every 4,000 people who are infected with Zika virus develop this neurological syndrome about a week to 2 weeks after the infection.
There is no diagnostic test for Zika. There is no vaccine for Zika. When will that change?
First of all, a diagnostic test is really needed, because we cannot really diagnose whether someone has had Zika infection and differentiate it with other similar virus infections like dengue or chikungunya virus, which are occurring in the same populations and also are transmitted by mosquitoes. So that's a top priority, particularly if we want to know for pregnant women whether they're infected or not. We can diagnose them with a very complicated test, but that's not good enough. Vaccine, that's going to happen. I think that's a matter of weeks to months. There's a lot of work going on. However, for a vaccine, that's going to take much longer. The first test in humans, let's hope that they can happen in 3 to 5 months. But then there's still a long way to go before that vaccine is available. And it has to be tested in humans to see whether it's safe, which dose to give, and then, of course, whether it protects or not. So we're talking more about a year at least, if not more than a few months.
And what's curious about the Zika virus is we've known about it for a long time, for decades. One of my colleagues, David McKenzie, went to the Zika Forest in Uganda, where it was first discovered, in the 1940s. So why did it take so long, and what happened for the virus to manifest itself in such a vicious way?
It's a fascinating story. Zika was discovered in 1947 in Uganda. And it was then a virus looking for a disease. And then it caused, after many years, some smaller outbreaks in the Pacific Islands, for example, and then a bigger one in French Caledonia, and now suddenly an explosion with over 1.5 million people in Brazil. What happened? We don't know. Has the virus changed? Has it become more virulent? Certainly there are more mosquitoes, there's climate change, and it's very striking also that in Brazil it's often a disease of poverty, people who live in the slums with stagnant water, and the main thing that we can do against Zika is to make sure there are fewer mosquitoes. and really make sure that, you know, there's no stagnant water, which are ideal breeding grounds for the mosquito that transmits Zika.
And authorities in Brazil and other affected countries in Latin America are doing just that. They're cracking down on mosquitoes, on stagnant water. Are you concerned, though, that the number of cases could rise exponentially because we have the Summer Games approaching in Rio, just a few months away?
Well, there's no doubt that there will be millions of new cases of Zika infection because it's spreading now. Temperature is going up and rising in the, you know, in the northern hemisphere. So that will also contribute to more mosquitoes. And the question is, when we are approaching the Olympics, will most of the people around the Olympics in Brazil have been infected and be immune or not? And will there still be Zika transmission and mosquitoes? We don't know, and it's something to follow very, very carefully.
And that was Peter Piot, the microbiologist who helped discover the Ebola virus, discussing the threats and challenges posed by Zika.